Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Canadian Football Central, CFL content for the fans, by the fans, and we have our Week 15 preview here. We only have 3 games of football this week, so we'll have something to coverage, but a third of the teams are on a bye week, being the Elks, Bombers, and Riders, all on a bye week here.
And you know what that means? Riders still haven't won a game since July 19th.
That Rider streak continues. However, this will be a big game for BC, as they will be in the first game of the week here against Toronto, where BC has an opportunity to take first in the West until obviously Winnipeg will get a game next week, and BC goes on their bye week the following week, as Winnipeg the following week over on September 21st plays the Edmonton Elks. But the Toronto Argonauts take on the BC Lions, and if you saw our yesterday, we had released our review of this past week, and if you guys watched that video, which in real time we actually recorded about 30 minutes ago. Keep in mind, we are recording this on at 11 p.m. Central on the Monday, September the 9th. So we might have gotten some injury reports and stuff since then. But
I have one team's injury reports.
Okay, so we will get into that. But what I was going to say is that based on what you heard in that video, I think you can probably guess who I'm taking between this BC-Toronto game with, even though neither quarterback really was able to stop. It's one of those things where it's like, Rick, what is the over? What is going to be like the over-under on just net interceptions this game? Like, how many picks are thrown, period? Not just from one or the other, just total. Are we in an 8-pick game?
I want to say at least 6.
I think we get 5 or 6 picks.
Because, I mean, that's at least 3 per.
I think we get 5 or 6
offensive.
Picks this game.
Toronto's offensive line needs to show up.
Yep.
Keep in mind,
I'm not going to lie.
In BC.
Here's the thing, though. Can the Toronto Argonauts offensive line handle Matthew Betts?
So
I'm not gonna lie. I'm kind of expecting this Matthew Betts to cook this Argos O line. I'm
keep in mind Toronto has to travel across all of Canada to go to Vancouver.
Well, they're going to be doing a lot of flying, but one thing they need to be doing a lot of is running, because they didn't do very much running last week. Kadeem Carey, again, only 8 rushes all of last game for Toronto, and 2 of them were Chad Kelly himself, so only really 6 rushes. Kadeem Carey only gets 5 of those. Kadeem Carey needs to get that ball more, and you got to trust that running game a little bit more if you want to be able to get stuff done. And so I think the Toronto Argonauts gonna have to establish the running game, because if you're gonna have Chad Kelly try to throw it 50 times, he's gonna throw at least 3 or 4 picks minimum.
Well, keep in mind they're gonna be playing in the dome.
Yes, that's right.
They won't have to worry about playing in the rain, so there'll be a lot more running.
Yeah, although the rain doesn't really help the passing game. It really doesn't. Because it makes everything more slippery. It makes it harder to throw it. I'll put it this way. I remember when I played offensive line and we played it in the rain, in the snow, it was harder to snap the ball because of how slippery that ball was. So that doesn't help the passing game. That actually helps the running game. It was easier to run the ball in that kind of weather. But weather is not going to really be much of a factor there in BC play. So at the end of the day, Toronto Argonauts, Coach Dinwiddie needs to make the decision in order. And with that offensive coordinator, you guys got to be able to run the ball. You got to be able to run the ball. You got to be able to move it that way. And Toronto's defense has gotta have that passing game shut down. You got to be able to you have to play to the weaknesses that Rourke has, and understand that some of the passes that he's going to go for, and try to get those picks when you can. Because you kind of have to expect that Chad Kelly's going to throw a few of his own. But if you're Chad Kelly, I guess try to get out of that slump. And if you're Nathan Rourke, try to get back to your 2022 ways, even though it didn't get you all the way.
Montreal. Toronto did not practice on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
BC did. So Nathan Cherry defense.
Who has the injury report? What team?
BC.
BC cap.
So Nathan Cherry defensive line limited. Seontae Evans defensive back elbow full. David McKee fullback hamstring limited. Justin McInnes wide receiver foot. So Kent Perkins offensive line ankle limited. Gary Peters defensive back ankle limited. Chris Schlager offensive line knee full. Amari Sedidi defensive line knee limited, and Anu Yuna offensive line knee limited. By the time this team practices,
right?
No, those were the only ones that were.
Oh, okay. I thought Broxton was, so maybe
by Wednesday they're all going to be probably practicing full, anyways.
I see. So that's the injury situation over for the Lions. Although I'm not going to lie, like Rick, even though the Lions got a decent amount of injuries they're dealing with, is this a factor for you? Like, do you think that this changes the outcome of this football game?
Nope. Oh, and for those betting people, so BC is given a 4.5 point lead spread, and I'm actually just going to see if they have. Oh, they haven't released it yet. I was trying to see what they had for. Oh, they must not have it yet. I was trying to see what they had for the over-under for this.
Overall, though, but Rick, like...
Yes, I'm listening.
How are you, like... I'm not going to lie. So I'm going to give my pick right now. I'm going with the Lions.
Oh, I already had my picks.
I'm hoping for the Argonauts to win. I want the Argos to win for the sake of keeping those points in the East and keeping Winnipeg in a good spot, keeping them in first. But BC looks to be ready, and they're looking like they're really getting back into form. And now BC and Winnipeg are in a battle for first in the West, and I think BC is hungry for it, and Toronto doesn't really look that hungry to stay in that playoff spot. So I gotta go with the Lions. So you're going.
I mean, considering that Toronto has lost 2 games in a row and averaged 30 plus points a game, they got to get something figured out.
Yep. So that will bring us into the first of the 2 Saturday games, where the Ottawa Redblacks go to Tim Hortons Field in Hamilton, take on the Hamilton Tiger-Cats. Rick,
for the Hall of Fame game.
For the Hall of Fame game, Rick, this is your stuff. This is your Ticats. Go nuts. Let's hear it.
So I was at practice yesterday. When I say yesterday, I'm not talking about Monday. I'm talking about Sunday, because they had the annual Ticat season ticket holder event, and yet again, Butler is still the backup running back. However, there's good news. Taylor Powell is now off the 6th game and now is backup to Bo Levi Mitchell. For how long? I have no idea. I don't even know if Bo has a short leash this game. But it will be interesting to see how well we do against this almighty defense in Ottawa.
Yeah, I mean, if we look at what that Ottawa defense was able to do last week to the Toronto Argonauts and to Chad Kelly, they were able to do all kinds of damage. I mean, if we look at some of the defensive stats, McGee and Dandridge, both with the interceptions. Webb grabbed himself 2 picks, both of them being pick sixes. And then a sack again for Williams, Lang, Malden the 4th, John, Wakefield, Taylor, and Taylor. So just 6 sacks, 4 interceptions, 2 pick sixes. So some of that again does fall on Toronto, and Chad Kelly. But it is important to mention in the sense of that you can't discount that from the defensive capabilities of this Red Black squad.
I will say though, our defense has improved since
I would agree.
Freeman Chris Jones has joined our coaching staff.
And this is where people need to realize that Chris Jones he's not inherently just a bad football coach. He's not. He's just not good as a head coach. He's not good at being the guy leading the charge. As strictly a defensive coordinator, this guy is able to be effective. I mean, at the end of the day, this is a coach who has won a great cup. I can't remember how many he's got. I know he's got one. Does he have multiple Grey Cups, Chris Jones?
I will look that up in a second. He has 4.
He has 4 Grey Cups. Now, again, like, not saying he's a good head coach, but as a defensive coordinator, he's been able to do well enough to be able to get the job done. Because if we look here at his 4 Grey Cups, okay, so 2002 he wins, and he wins with the Alouettes as a defensive
line coach.
Then in 2008 he wins as the defensive coordinator with Calgary. Then in 2012 he wins as a defensive coordinator, assistant general manager, assistant head coach with the Toronto Argonauts. Again, not head coach, not general manager, just the assistant. And then in 2015, he wins the Grey Cup as the head coach of the Edmonton Eskimos. So only one as a head coach, but his head coach record has soured very, very much since
and
then.
don't forget, in 18, as the head coach and GM of Saskatchewan, he was also named the coach of the year.
Yeah.
Before the world went to shit.
And so that is an important thing to mention. We all joke about Chris Jones and all the problems he had over in Edmonton with the Elks.
I will say
he was. And he was terrible as a head coach, but as a defensive coordinator, he's done pretty well in Hamilton so far. And so who knows, maybe if he's able to keep it going through the rest of the season, he could find himself at a job at a proper job as a defensive coordinator next season.
I will say, I was mentioning this to another season ticket holder on Sunday.
Yep.
His accent, oh my Lord, that makes me laugh so hard. The nice Southern accent that he has. It's like, oh my God, is this really him talking? And then the one thing that you'll notice is Mr. McKnight, the defensive coordinator or the special teams coordinator that's with us. If you haven't watched the Ticat game, Carter, you can betcha you're going to be hearing from him any game that you're in the stands.
Well,
because I'm in the end zone, 9 rows up in my section, and I can still hear him.
Mute. I'll put it that way.
Well, that too, and still better than hearing those stupid horns in Montreal. But besides,
anything is better than hearing the stupid horns in Montreal.
And for the love of God, can our Ticats please catch the damn ball? I was watching practice on Sunday, and it's like, I don't know what else to say.
So
also, across the league, I don't know if fans know this or not, but you can now add 5 players to your practice squad for the rest of the season. So you'll start to notice teams take advantage of extra scouting for next year, as we have already added 5 players to our extra practice squad.
I heard about that. So overall,
happens every fall.
I mean, if we're looking here, this is going to be an important game. As
Hall of Fame game.
The Ottawa, as this is the Hall of Fame game, yes. And this is the opportunity for the Red Blacks to close that gap with the Alouettes. If the Alouettes find a way to slip a bit too much, as the Red Blacks are not that far behind. The Alouettes 10-2-0. The Red Blacks 8-3-1. So the Red Blacks, we have to keep in mind, have played the same number of games as the Alouettes. And so with the Alouettes most likely being guaranteed probably a win this week, if we're being honest. But the Red Blacks, if they win this game, they can stay in contention for that top spot if Montreal does have a game where they slip, or if they somehow do slip to Calgary this week. And moreover, just increasing that lead over Toronto as Toronto more and more is continuing to have problems. And so, but with the Ticats here, this is an important opportunity now that you see the Toronto Argonauts starting to slip. If the Ticats are able to win this game and a few others, who knows? Maybe similar to the Edmonton Elks, they're able to find themselves a way back into the fold. I mean, we've discussed this many, many times, Rick, about how the Hamilton Tiger Cats started the season with Labor Day. And they started it with a win this year on Labor Day. So who knows? Maybe the Ticats are able to get going.
I did the math today. Well, I didn't do the math. Someone on one of the Ticat fans did math.
Sent this or posted this or something.
So, if Hamilton wins 3, Toronto would have to go 0-6 for the rest of the way. If Hamilton wins 4, Toronto would have to go 1-5. If Hamilton wins 5, Toronto would have to go 2-4. And if Hamilton wins some mysterious way, they win all 6, Toronto would have to go 3-3. And this is not including a crossover. And any combination of Toronto victories and Hamilton losses totaling 4 will guarantee Toronto will finish ahead of Hamilton. But on this topic of Hall of Fame, I'm just going to mention to the people who are going in this year's class.
You should absolutely, because I'm not sure all the names.
Former Bomber and Rider, Westland Dressler.
Very much warranted. Well deserved.
Former Argo, Ticat, Hawaiian himself, Chad Owens.
Also deserved.
S.J. Green. He was a Montreal receiver.
I mean, everyone going in is deserved, but I mean...
Defensive lineman Vince Goldsmith.
Absolutely.
And corner Marvin Coleman. Legendary coach Ray Jooch. And Ed Laverty. Also, long CFL statistics, Steve Daniel. And TSN's own Farhan Lalji is being inducted into the media wing. And it sucks because I wanted to go to this game, and of course, work comes first. But hopefully, we will be able to see it on TV. And yeah.
Okay. So,
but with that being said,
Ottawa,
Carter, who are you going with? Because you already know who I'm going with.
In this game, I am going to be picking the Ottawa Red Blacks to defeat the Hamilton Tigers.
This will be the only game that we agree on this, or that we disagree on.
As I know, Rick, you're taking the Ticats.
Can they hate me all they want? Hey, I'm black and gold through and through. I never.
You will always pick your
go against my team.
Fair enough.
But
I will choose the Bombers when I think they've earned it. But if I think they haven't earned it, then but I think they have.
Here's the interesting stat for our last game of the week. You ready for it?
Yeah.
Montreal is 5-0 on the road.
Yep.
Calgary is 4-2 at home.
Mm-hmm.
So Calgary has never won on the road this year.
Okay. Well, they're in.
Do you think Calgary makes this game interesting, or is this a one-sided game with Calgary having 4-2 at home and Montreal 5-0 on the road?
No. I mean, Bonner sucked last game, but it's not just Bonner that sucked last game for Calgary. Because if you can't stop the Elks, how the hell are you going to stop the Alouettes defensively? Again, take Bonner out of the equation. If the Calgary defense can't stop the Elks, How the hell are you going to stop the Alouettes?
So here's my thing that I feel bad for receivers in Calgary because Jalen Philpott, it's good that his brother Tyson is doing well in Montreal, but unless that guy gets traded or leaves Calgary, his career is going to go nowhere because they don't have a quarterback in Calgary.
Not yet, at least.
And whoever management is in Calgary, if you do not throw the biggest amount of freaking money at a starting quarterback this offseason,
I was about to say, if you're
you
Calgary,
need
you
to
look at
give
Vernon
your
Adams
head
Jr.
a shake.
and you try to bring that guy in. Seriously.
But I mean, even that, you still have other people that are going to be vying for his services.
Oh yeah, but you gotta throw the book. You gotta throw the book. This guy was this guy was running MOP. He was on that kind of a year. Now, when we talk about this game, like if we talk about the Alouettes last week with some defensive struggles against the BC, which is a little out of character for the Alouettes. I'm not necessarily convinced that this continues. Also, BC, their offense has been able to do a bit more as of recent, whereas the Stampeders' offense is just not being able to, even with Jake Mayer in. And so I think with the Alouettes, they can get their defense at least back in form enough to get themselves a victory, even if they find a way to make this game close, which they shouldn't. I don't see any way. I don't see any situation where Calgary wins this game. Montreal would really have to collapse a lot, and Calgary would really have to try to figure it out a lot with a team that looks like they're going through an identity crisis. Seriously, it's one of those things where it's like when you look at Rick.
Yes.
Can you name me one guy on the Calgary Stampeders where you're like, this guy is the future? The future, not the right now in terms of he's a good player now, but the future of this franchise. And this is a guy we can build around.
Does it matter on the position?
Not
and
really.
Are you talking like young, or are you just talking like a veteran?
I'm either. I'm talking about if we lost all of our players with the exception of this guy, this is a guy we could build the team around.
Okay. There's two.
Okay.
Your boy Houston.
Demario Houston, yep.
And Begelton.
Here's the thing though. The problem with that is that a receiver is only as good as a quarterback that can throw to him. You know what I mean?
Yes. And
with Demario Houston, he's a very good player, but he's one piece in a system. It's one of those things where that pass defense is only as good as its weakest link. Football is a very team-oriented game. If you have the offensive line and you have the best 3 or 4 offensive linemen in the world and you have one Joe Schmo Schmuck as your 5th guy, you're not going to be able to be successful because that guy is going to be holding you down. And so it's one of those things, when I look at the Stampeders, I don't see a single guy on that roster who I'm like, this is a guy you can 100% build around. And
so,
obviously, Reggie Begelton and Demario Houston are kind of the standout players, but I don't see a quarterback that's like your guy that you can build around. I don't see a running back that is your guy that you can build this offense around. Or like it's just I'm struggling to see the vision in Calgary, and Calgary has got to figure that out. They have to figure out their identity before they can really accept themselves moving forward.
I will put this out. So Reggie Begelton is 5th in yards.
Yep.
I don't know what he is in touchdowns. However, if you give Reggie Begelton a Cody Fajardo, Drew Brown, Vernon Adams, I bet you he can probably be a top 3 receiver.
Absolutely.
With his volume. So 100%. Considering that he is still the 5th receiver within yards on a shit team,
yeah,
just think of what his potential can be.
That tells you about just really how impressive this guy is. So, yeah, overall, They that they got to figure that out. But I mean, we've talked about a lot of the problems with Calgary. The Alouettes are dealing with some injury problems. Austin Mack's still out. But
See, the thing is with Montreal, it can be anyone's given night.
that's true.
It does not matter
So here's the thing:
who. It can be Rambo, can be Speaker, Fletcher,
do you think it's
White.
White Jr.? Do you think maybe
It can be
like
Nate Bahar.
if you have to put all your eggs in one basket on what receiver is going to have the standout game for the Alouettes, who are you guessing?
Speaker.
That's fair.
Speaker.
All in all, though, that leads us to the same conclusion, which is that my prediction is that the Alouettes defeat the Calgary Stampeders
By a long shot. This is going to be the...
Again, that's the thing. It's by a long shot because even if the Montreal Alouettes play their worst game and Calgary plays their best game, I still don't know if Calgary wins. So I got to go with the Alouettes. I just don't see enough signs of life from this Calgary team in order to be able to pick them as the favorite. But who knows? Maybe they prove me wrong.
Before you sign off, here's some interesting numbers for you.
Yep.
We are now going through week 14.
Yep.
Across the league, there's been 160 touchdowns.
Yep.
108 interceptions. 223 quarterback sacks. But can you guess who leads in quarterback sacks with 24?
Who?
And it's not... Let's just say the person behind him is a backup, and he has 22.
Who is it? Rick?
Zach Caleros with 24.
And this is 24 what?
Then you have Cameron Dukes. You have Cameron Dukes
what,
with
sorry?
22. 24 sacks taken.
I see.
Dukes has 22. Bethel Thompson has 18, followed by Mayor Brown and Adams, all with 17.
All right.
Just some fun numbers. As you know me, I like to keep track of our Fajardo Award, our Fajardo and Justin Crum Award of most sacks in the season.
Good God. Hopefully Zach Calero's award doesn't get added to that. The not so Stanley Bryant award.
I will say though, so Zach Caleros has the highest game for yards. He has 486 for the highest game, with Drew Brown behind him at 480. Bo Levi has 5 touchdowns in a full game, and he also leads the league with 6 300 games.
All right, well, that's
just
some good stuff.
Some little fun little tidbits.
There we go. Is there anything else we got, Rick? I want to make sure we're not forgetting anything.
Yes. Keep an eye out for us as we will be announcing, probably on social media, if we're streaming Friday night.
We might stream Friday's game between the Argos and the Lions, so we're not confirmed yet. But just make sure you guys, when that game is kind of coming up, you guys stay active on your socials. You might hear from us. So
I will also be live streaming the Hall of Fame game on a bit of a tape delay at 4:30 over on the channel. So. And I swear to God, if anyone comes into my chat and blows the game for me, because I have to work till 4:30, and it's going to be on tape delay. I'm having it. I don't care. YouTube.
Rick about to get
rules. I'm going to have some choice words for you on Saturday. Do not be spoiling the game for me.
All right. Well, fair enough. So make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe if you have not already. Make sure you guys hit the little notification bell. Calm down, Ash Ketchum. Hit the little notification bell. Helps out the channel a ton. If you guys are listening to this on Spotify, make sure you guys give us 5 stars. Really helps out the channel a ton. Also, check out our socials on Instagram and on X. Got all sorts of wonderful stuff that gets posted to there. And so, peace, love, and positivity to all you wonderful people at home. And we will see you guys next time.
Touchdown!